So I'm Oscar Modozahori, and you are.
I'm Michael Merrilees. Uh, I run this podcast right there called Seems Good Radio.
All right, we're from Wilmington, North Carolina,
That's right.
home of Cape Fear Games and MTGO Traders. Funny enough.
Yep.
All right, and what I wanted to do is go over the cube. I know there's a lot of people that are going to be playing cube for the first time. I think this weekend because if you're out in the boonies and you don't have enough friends to play with the cube, even if you have
Yikes.
the cards, you can't do much. And a lot of
That's pretty
people, I
harsh,
think,
Oscar.
I mean, looking at just the whole list, this is an expensive cube. If you were to have all these cards in real life, I know some people like to do proxy, but holy crap! Can you imagine how much this would take in time to put together and all that jazz? But what I want to do is just like go through every color, and I know you've cubed a lot, right?
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. Like Parnell's Cube, and then we got the Custom Cube project, which
yeah.
you can find out more about. Oh, right over there. Yeah, yeah. We're doing custom cube videos. We actually had a cube week that we did with Parnell. Just kind of talking about cubes. So it's a really fun format. I really like limited, and this is just like limited with really powerful cards that somebody took a lot of time into building a play environment, which I know Justin did. I don't know much about what's going on here, or how
Oh,
it's going to
sorry.
play out. But
Oh, there's our preview from this week. Wrong button. Sorry. All right. All right. So, no, I've just again put everything. I loaded up the entire cube as a deck on Magic Online, so we can zoom on the cards, and it's nicer than just talking about them.
uh,
And then I just right now I've got white laid out, and from my experiences with cubes that are powered, which
mhm.
this is more close to, even though it doesn't have the actual power than a non-powered cube, just because it's got a lot of the otherwise really powerful cards. The white is usually has the white weenie aggro strategy, or
Sure.
and cards that support that kind of deck, and then it's got the control, you know, Wrath of Gods,
Yeah, like
pinpoint
that.
removal, and
Sure.
and then stuff like that, and then then towards the high end you got the fatties that do something broken or some sort, and then there's a subsection of cards that especially that I can see here that also are like just flat out broken. Say like things like land tax, which can go in any deck. It's just so good. Um, but I don't know if you can see the list carefully. I mean, again, I sorted by mana cost. So
Sure.
if you think this is 720 card cube, and for an 8-person draft, that's 360 cards. So on average, you should see half of these
Thank
cards
you. Yeah.
per time you draft. So obviously variance means that maybe this one cube no one drops got opened, but that's not very likely. You're likely to see of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 one drops, counting the figure of destiny that just red and white.
Yeah.
You're bound to see about 6 one drops per cube.
Sure.
So
So I guess first of all, I mean, I'd probably like to just say kind of like the cube mindset in general, right? Like for people who hadn't cubed really before, like what are we really looking at here?
well, I mean, I just laid out um, the
Yeah,
cards
right,
by
right.
mana cost,
Cool.
and let me see if you can see what I'm highlighting here. I separate into two piles. Oop, let me actually it's a little larger than that. Here on the
Yeah.
left of the screen is the creatures or creature type. Like I put token generators on this side as well,
Sure. Special
and
perception. Yeah.
right. Then here's there's some creatures, and then from here on, in the little hidden off screen, are the spells, and
Hmm.
there's actually if I think that if you're going mainly for like the aggressive strategy, there's actually very little overlap between the two. With the only real overlapping cards are things like Oblivion Ring, uh, Path to Exile, Source of Plashers, cards that are just good utility cards that
Yeah.
any deck can use. Um, but if you're drafting the white weenie strategy or white X aggro strategy, you're not going to want Wrath of God. But you are going to want Ravages of War and Armageddon. Elspeth is kind of an overlap card, but you're not going to want something like Hallowed Burial or Rout. So I wanted to talk about, it's difficult with the regular set where, there's like Innistrad, where you have to kind of plan what cards you want. You have to plan your mana curve, especially if you're drafting an aggressive deck. So it's I don't want people on Friday who's like never seen the list or just looked at the list and not have an idea of what they want to draft. Like we're looking at white and you're drafting white weenie. What you need to get is these 1 and 2 drops. You need as many of those as you can, and there's a lot of them. There's a good selection, and for the most part, they're all interchangeable. Oh, the Celestial Bird's in the wrong spot. Sure, some of them are utility, like Ethersworn Canonist, or White Knight, if you consider it as a Black Hoser, or Leonin Relic Warder. But at the end of the day, like the White Weenie strategies, all they want is 2/2s and 1/1s, and then mixed away them bigger with, say, equipment or Anthem effects.
Sure.
So what I want to point out is that if there's plenty of those to go around on average. Again, we're saying that you're going to see about half of these. So I want to point out, what are some of the other cards that if you're drafting, say, the White Weenie strategy, if you see Armageddon and you're drafting that strategy, you need to get it. It's not going to table. Same with Ravages of War. There's only one Elspeth. Which is a card that, again, I consider Elspeth any deck card. If you're playing white and you get Elspeth, you're going to play her.
Sure. I guess as far as like the just playing white thing, like I guess when I saw Cube for the first time, you're really jumping into like some strategy and all that, and like I think this is gonna be really good. But when I was sitting down to a Cube for the first time, I just saw like all these really powerful cards. Like you got a Rebel Arc there, and like the Figure Destiny and stuff, and like they were in the same pack. When you open up 15 as a lot of the other cards up here. So like outside of like specifics, I mean, if you're I guess if you're seeing a lot of these cards for the first time, like you said, if you've never cubed before, and you open some of these white one drops, what do they really mean?
Well,
in the context of it.
I mean, have you ever tried to draft like the white strategy, in a cube deck like this?
Yeah, sure.
So like, you're bound to open like really like powerful cards. Say cards like Time Spiral or a Visara, cards that would overwhelm any strategy if left. If you get to 6 mana, that's always a catch. But I want to point out that say you're not familiar with a lot of the cards in the cube because there's so many, and if you haven't been playing Magic for like the last 15 years, you're not going to know all of them. I mean, I don't know all of them, to be honest. Or there are cards that at the very least you're going to have to read and on the fly kind of make a decision. Well, is this good or isn't this good? Or what is this good in? But what I'm saying is, like, say I want to encourage people, as we look through each color, like, let's look at white. Well, all else fails. If you see a white weenie guy, don't be afraid to take it. There's a deck for it, and it's actually a really good deck if you can get it. Like, the aggressive strategies are fairly good in the cube. But I want to think, like, say you wanted to, I don't want to say force, but what card do you think of the ones that you can see here, or that maybe you've cubed with in the past, would make you think, oh, well, man, maybe I should try White Weenie. I'm going to get this card, and this card is really good in that deck, and hopefully I can get it. And you don't necessarily have to start White Weenie. I'll just say like a Weenie deck with white in it. There's fortunately a good amount of one white dorks here that are good in any white deck that plans to be aggressive. White's really good with green and red, I think, and it's not horrible with black. It's just the mana needs to be a little trickier.
Sure. I mean, I think I first picked Spectral Procession before.
Right. So say like
the
Lingering Souls
sure.
would be a good popular card these days. Spectral Procession, like you said. Like I'm always on the lookout for Armageddon. Like if I open Armageddon, and again, I've cubed it many times, and I have my personal preferences. So there's cards I would take over Armageddon, but if I was opening in the blind and one of the cards I personally don't like isn't on there, if I see Armageddon, it's a good sign that I maybe should try to force like a weenie strategy because that's what that card is best at.
Sure. Yeah. I guess what you're trying to do with a card like Armageddon in a format like this is just get a lot of creatures really really fast and then blow up all the lands and then just hit them.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, exactly because. On average, your small creatures should be better than some of the other creatures that are of that mana cost across the cube, especially
Sure.
if you get support. So I'm saying, like, if you open pack 1, for example, and there's a 1-drop and a 2-drop that's white, that to me that would be I might consider like, well, let's take the 2-drop and see if the 1-drop comes around. Assuming there's nothing like nobody's suggesting that you don't take sort of Fire and Ice over most of these cards, because that goes in everything. But it's just it's very easy to get caught in the glamour of all these powerful 6 mana cost spells, and then just end up losing to somebody else who managed to get the white aggressive strategy.
Sure. So, what about bombs? What kind of bombs we got?
All right, that's a good. Well, I mean, again, the small creatures. I mean, the only cards I would consider bombs of the small creatures are
No, the
cards
big
like
ones.
Lingering Sorrels
Yeah,
and
sure.
but like I think a white weenie bomb is Mother of Runes. She's just very difficult for other decks to deal with. Porcelain Regenera I consider a bomb. It's a 3 mana. It's 2 mana for a 3 for a striker is actually really extremely good.
Sure.
But once you get into the higher cost, like Hero Bladehold, I think is a bomb.
Mhm.
Revelark, like that's a build around me card. That's my favorite card.
Sure.
Like I always first
Yeah.
pick it if I see it, because it can go in a white weenie type of deck, but it's also various reanimation strategies you can try to get, like the evoke mechanic with Muldrifter. And that type of spell are really good. That was one of my favorite decks. Then is Baneslayer a bomb? I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's just a
Yeah.
creature in the cube.
Yeah. I guess that's the cool thing about Cube is that Baneslayer Angel next to like a Lingering Souls can be a pretty tough decision.
Right.
Depending on where you're at. That imbalance in the same pack or something. It forces you to make these really kind of creative decisions that I don't think you can really get in a lot of the other formats like Standard. Limited I think forces you just by definition to think in really strategic ways. While you're drafting and while you're communicating with people. With your decisions here. So if you do pick the balance and you pass Baneslayer Angel and Lingering Souls, like what's that person going to think? So yeah,
Now, like I said, continuing to answer your question, like cards that I consider like very very bombish are cards like Land Tax.
sure.
To be fair, though, this is not a powered cube. Land Tax is crazy when you can like Mox Land Tax.
Yeah, right.
But even in the situation where you're just like on the draw and the opponent goes land and you go land tax, your opponent you're gonna draw 6 cards of this card. Sure, there are gonna be lands, but if for any of you that haven't never played with land tax, just trust us, it's dumb. It's banned for good reason.
It's pretty good with Armageddon, actually.
Yeah, and it combines well with some of the other white bombs like Balance.
Yeah.
Armageddon and Ravages of War, which again, Ravages of War is just the Portal version of Armageddon. I'd consider the Planeswalkers fairly bombish. Elspeth, both Elspeths, and Gideon. I mean, there's cards I would take over them, but if you're in the white deck mentality, there's besides, like I said, land tags, balance, stuff like that, there's really not much better white cards. Some of the recent cards, like is Increasing Devotion a bomb? I don't know. It might be.
Depends on what you get. Yeah.
Right. One thing, again, I'm Oh, Elish Norn is a bomb.